The holographic transmission sputtered in distorted blues and greens, illuminating Commander Zarlak's Krev's hardened features. Through wavering static, a terrified voice burst forth. "Commander Krev, they're not human, they're demons. We never stood a..." The mercenary's voice vanished abruptly into shrill static, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. Krev's slit pupil eyes narrowed, claws gripping the edge of the console. Around him, hardened warriors shifted uneasily, eyes flickering from shadows back to their leader. Krev knew the look well, doubt. "They're merely humans," Krev snarled, his voice sharp like a blade slicing through tension. "Weak, fragile creatures. Nothing more." From the dense foliage surrounding their temporary command post, a muted, unnatural silence descended, punctuated only by distant, primal roars of Zephyr 6 nocturnal predators. Krev dismissed the uncomfortable quiet, turning toward his gathered unit, scarred veterans, mercenaries famed across sectors for ruthless efficiency. Yet tonight, he glimpsed hesitation in their eyes. "Listen closely," he growled, forcing authority into his voice, silencing muttered doubts. "We have all heard whispers, foolish legends of ghosts stalking the jungle. Humans have one weapon: stories. They thrive on fear and myth because physically they lack our strength. Strip away the stories, and they bleed just like any creature." He punctuated his words by slamming his armored fist against the metal surface of the holoprojector, sparks briefly flaring from the impact. His warriors shifted, emboldened by his determination, but wary shadows remained in their expressions. "Commander," spoke up his second-in-command, a muscular, violet-skinned warrior named Velrek, eyes narrowing slightly. "This isn't ordinary resistance. No one survives long enough to describe their methods clearly. Perhaps caution. Caution is for prey." Krev snapped, cutting Velrek off sharply. "Deploy the first scouting squad immediately. I want visual confirmation of these demons." Velrek nodded grimly and spoke into his wrist communicator, summoning the forward scouts. Minutes later, 7 mercenaries, lightly armored but heavily armed, stood at attention before Krev. Their scaled armor glistened under dim lighting. Disciplined and lethal, they awaited orders with blank determination. "Find these humans," Krev instructed firmly. "Track them quietly. Do not engage unless unavoidable. Report every movement." The scouts saluted silently, vanishing quickly into the suffocating jungle darkness. Krev watched them go, ignoring the small, gnawing doubt coiling deep within him. Humanity's growing reputation as fearsome warriors was absurd, he reasoned. They were mere flesh and bone, no creature born of earth could intimidate a void Talon. Yet, as he turned away, a distant crack echoed through the oppressive night, followed swiftly by muffled screams and frantic bursts of gunfire. A sinking dread twisted Krev's gut. Several kilometers away, beneath an obscured canopy of twisted alien trees, Captain Marcus Kane stood silently in the shadows, his breathing even, steady, almost meditative. Beside him crouched Sergeant Elena Shadow Voss, scanning the darkness through enhanced optics. Her voice, coolly professional, broke the silence. "Target squad neutralized, Captain. They didn't even spot us coming." Marcus exhaled softly, nodding without breaking his stare into the abyssal jungle. "Excellent. Wounded?" "Negative," Elena replied, allowing herself a thin, fleeting smile. "Clean kills. And 1 messenger left alive, just as ordered." Marcus nodded again, his eyes reflecting the faint red glow from distant muzzle flashes before they disappeared entirely. "Good. Their leader will be angry, reckless even. Fear makes fools." Nearby, Specialist Jackson chuckled quietly, checking ammunition clips with practiced efficiency. "Think they'll leave this rock once we've spooked them enough, Cap?" Marcus glanced at him, his expression calm but severe. "Not yet. Not while pride blinds their commander. Krev's reputation demands a fight. He won't retreat until he learns respect through blood." Jackson smirked lightly, fastening a combat knife into his belt. "Guess we're teachers now, huh?" Marcus suppressed a smile, his tone dry and steady. "Always have been." Suddenly, Elena tensed, listening intently to her headset. Her expression hardened instantly, eyes meeting Marcus's with urgency. "Captain, aerial drones inbound, multiple vectors. They're intensifying their search." Marcus straightened, seamlessly shifting into tactical mode, a living weapon sharpened by years of frontline experience. "Scatter formation. Minimal heat signatures. Move quietly, swiftly. We ghost now." His squad vanished into the dense underbrush, shadows within shadows. Marcus lingered a heartbeat longer, scanning the jungle floor littered with lifeless alien mercenaries, testament to Ghost Company's deadly effectiveness. A pang of grim satisfaction flickered briefly through him. "They'll learn," he whispered to the darkness, eyes narrowing with quiet intensity. "Every single one of them." At the mercenary command post, Krebs stared grimly at the wounded messenger who'd somehow stumbled back, trembling and babbling incoherently. Velrek approached cautiously, voice subdued yet firm. "Commander, perhaps we should reconsider our approach." "Speak clearly, mercenary." Krev barked at the shivering survivor, ignoring Velrek entirely. "What did you see out there?" The wounded scout raised his eyes, haunted by visions unseen. "We saw nothing. Just shadows moving faster than sight. They came from everywhere, nowhere. Quiet, silent, death itself. We never stood a chance." Krev growled in disgust, visibly unsettled yet refusing to yield. "Superstitions and cowardice. Worthless." Velrek leaned close, whispering carefully into Krev's ear. "We lost 7 experienced soldiers in minutes, Commander. Perhaps it's time we treated these humans seriously." Krev turned sharply, venom filling his voice. "They're primitives. Fools, with barely 2 centuries of spaceflight. I will not disgrace my name fleeing mere humans." "Commander," Velrek pressed gently yet firmly. "Reputation means little when you're dead. We must adapt." Krev stood silently, eyes burning, pride and logic warring inside him. Finally, he exhaled sharply, mandibles clicking quietly in irritation. "Fine. Reinforce defenses. Deploy drones and double perimeter guards. This fight isn't finished, not until we prove humans bleed." Yet, even as his mercenaries hastily moved to obey, Krev couldn't silence the whisper at the edge of his thoughts, a cold truth, uneasy and undeniable. He had underestimated them. Deep in Zephyr 6's shadow-haunted jungle, the humans waited, patient and deadly, ready to teach a lesson the Void Talons, and the galaxy, would never forget. The jungle air was heavy with moisture, every breath thick and oppressive. Commander Krev paced impatiently inside his fortified command center, eyes fixed on the sprawling array of screens. Surveillance drones projected real-time feeds from Zephyr 6's dense foliage, casting eerie green glows across his narrowed gaze. "Nothing yet, Commander," Velrek reported tensely. "Thermals, visuals, all clear." Krev's mandibles clicked irritably. "Impossible. They cannot vanish." Velrek hesitated, choosing words carefully. "It's their environment, Commander. Humans adapt quickly. We must." Krev slammed his fist onto the console, scattering static-filled images. "Enough caution. I will not cower behind walls. Send out patrols, heavy infantry this time. Crush them." Velrek nodded grimly, broadcasting orders into his wrist communicator. A moment later, heavily armored mercenaries emerged from bunkers, their massive frames lumbering aggressively into the shadowy jungle. Each warrior bristled with high-powered weaponry, their movements exuding brutal confidence. Yet, barely 20 meters into the foliage, something went terribly wrong. Without warning, detonations erupted beneath their feet. Explosive traps, perfectly hidden beneath layers of dense vegetation, discharged, ripping through armor and flesh. Screams filled the comm channels, frantic and confused. "Ambush," one mercenary shouted, firing wildly into the dark. Invisible enemies opened fire from unseen positions, muzzle flashes barely discernible through thick underbrush. Krev watched in horror as disciplined warriors fell swiftly, unable to identify their attackers. "Pull back!" Krev shouted desperately through comms. Return to base, regroup. But even as surviving mercenaries retreated, confusion reigned. Each mercenary's terrified voice overlapped another. They're everywhere. I can't see, there's no target. Watching helplessly, Krev's clawed hands curled into fists. The screens became static, visual feeds severed. His fury rose, mixed with something else, a primal dread he hadn't felt in decades. Deep inside the jungle's oppressive gloom, Captain Marcus Kane observed the unfolding chaos impassively through advanced optics, each explosion reflecting briefly in his eyes. He lowered the binoculars slowly, exhaling quietly. Perfect execution, Elena murmured softly beside him, admiration clear in her voice. Marcus nodded but remained somber. We're not done yet. Krev won't retreat, not until his pride breaks completely. From their concealed vantage, Ghost Company soldiers silently repositioned, their faces camouflaged expertly in dark, muted patterns. Moving swiftly through twisting roots and vines, their discipline was unmatched, mere shadows flickering beneath Zephyr's alien moons. How many more? Specialist Jackson whispered as they regrouped around Marcus. Marcus considered thoughtfully, voice calm and low. As many as necessary. We grind down their morale. Leave survivors, always. Let fear spread faster than gunfire. Jackson's eyes shone knowingly. Break their spirit, not just their lines. Marcus nodded. Precisely. A rustling interrupted their hushed conversation, instantly weapons snapped upward. Emerging from shadows was Specialist Harper, a wiry young sniper whose eyes glinted sharply. Captain, they're massing armored units near their central outpost, Harper reported crisply. Looks like Krev himself is preparing something big. Marcus's eyes narrowed slightly. Good. He's playing exactly to our strengths. Let's remind them how human tactics evolve. Harper grinned faintly. With pleasure. Inside the compound, mercenaries moved frantically to reinforce defenses. Paranoia permeated their every motion. Krev barked furious commands, but his troops' eyes flickered nervously toward every shadow, doubt seeping deeply into their minds. How many? Krev growled, confronting Velrek directly. We lost 15, Velrek responded cautiously, quietly respectful yet grim. And more severely wounded. Morale is fragile. Krev slammed his fist again, this time cracking the console's transparent overlay. We outnumber them greatly. How is this possible? Velrek hesitated, then spoke cautiously. Their tactics defy conventional understanding. They don't fight face to face, it's like chasing ghosts, always hidden, always striking where least expected. Krev's eyes darkened, uncertainty flickering briefly before stubborn pride asserted itself again. Ghosts are a myth. We're facing mere flesh and blood enemies. Velrek exhaled slowly. Commander, myth or not, the results speak loudly. Perhaps changing strategy. Enough, Krev snapped, refusing doubt again. Prepare my personal armor. I'll lead the next patrol myself. Velrek's eyes widened slightly in alarm. Commander, if you fall. Krev cut him off sharply. Then fight harder to protect me. The Void Talons do not yield. Not to humans. Marcus silently directed his soldiers into position, meticulously preparing their next move. His team settled along a strategic ridgeline, awaiting Krev's imminent approach. Elena crouched quietly beside Marcus, eyes fixed ahead. Captain, what makes them keep coming, despite losses? Marcus's gaze remained steady, quietly introspective. Arrogance. Krev believes himself unbeatable. She glanced thoughtfully toward him. And us? What do we believe? Marcus allowed himself a faint smile, humanizing the ruthless leader for a brief moment. We believe in adaptation. In survival at all costs. It's why humanity thrives where others falter. She nodded slowly. So it's not cruelty, just necessity? Exactly, Marcus affirmed softly, watching the shadows. War doesn't favor strength alone. It favors cunning. Nearby, Harper signaled sharply, hand raised in silent alert. Everyone froze instantly, bodies tense, breathing shallow. Krev's armored patrol appeared below, weapons drawn, searching aggressively but unaware they were already surrounded. Marcus raised a hand quietly, signaling the imminent strike, adrenaline flooding his senses. Elena whispered softly, eyes unwavering. "Do we leave him alive?" Marcus considered carefully, eyes dark with calculated resolve. "Wounded, yes. Alive, definitely. Krev's humiliation serves us better than his death." He lowered his hand sharply. Silent muzzle flashes erupted simultaneously from hidden positions, precise and lethal. Mercenaries dropped instantly, confusion exploding amongst their ranks. Krev shouted orders desperately, his voice drowned beneath Ghost Company's disciplined onslaught. A perfectly aimed round pierced Krev's armor precisely where Marcus intended, causing agony but not death. Krev collapsed, gasping in disbelief. Marcus stood quietly from cover, his presence ghostly yet commanding. "That's enough. Leave them the wounded in retreat." His team obeyed instantly, melting silently into darkness again. As Marcus vanished into the jungle's shadows, Krev lay wounded on the jungle floor, consciousness flickering. Humiliation burned deeper than his wound. The realization hit him harder than any bullet: humans weren't mere foes, they were masters of psychological warfare, creatures who thrived through tactics he barely comprehended. A bitter truth clawed at Krev's mind: humans hadn't just wounded his body, they'd shattered his pride, piece by piece. Commander Zarlax Krev sat still on the edge of his cot, armor dented, leg wrapped in a temporary med-gel brace. The jungle outside still buzzed with its alien symphony, but inside the mercenary camp, silence lingered like smoke after a fire. His elite squad, 40 seasoned fighters, had been reduced to a dozen battered, paranoid survivors. He hadn't spoken since returning from the failed patrol. Not a word. Not even to Velrek, who now stood beside him, arms crossed, gaze fixed firmly ahead. "They didn't kill you," Velrek said finally, voice low. "They could have. You know that." Krev said nothing. "They wanted you to crawl back." Still nothing. "You're not being hunted, Commander," Velrek continued, turning toward him now. "You're being studied. Outplayed." At that, Krev raised his eyes. They were bloodshot, sunken, deprived of sleep, stripped of certainty. "They've made a joke of us." "No," Velrek replied, not unkindly. "They've made an example of us." A sharp clang echoed outside, followed by a shout. Krev shot to his feet, instinctively grabbing his weapon. Two mercenaries dragged in a third, trembling and drenched in mud. His face was cut, his armor marked with white streaks, chalk symbols in the Terran alphabet. On his chest, the number 7 scrawled crudely. The soldier fell to his knees. "They let me go," he stammered. "Just like the others." "Same message." Velrek crouched and peeled off the mercenary's shattered helmet. "What did they say?" The soldier looked up, voice cracking. "The same thing. Every time. Tell your commander, we're not ghosts. We're reminders." Krev turned sharply. "Reminders of what?" "Failure," the soldier whispered. Krev's fingers twitched at his side. Rage boiled beneath his skin, but it no longer had direction. He wasn't losing a battle. He was unraveling under a strategy meant to destroy his very identity. Half a click away, Marcus Kane sat quietly beneath a gnarled canopy tree, cleaning the barrel of his rifle with methodical care. His team rested nearby, weapons close, eyes alert but calm. Elena approached, dropping into a crouch beside him. Message was delivered. Marcus nodded once. "Good. You think he's starting to understand?" "He has no choice," Marcus replied. "He won't break from wounds or loss. But humiliation, that'll eat him alive." Elena tilted her head. "Why not finish him now? Strike the camp and be done. Because killing Krev ends this mission. Breaking him ends the myth." Marcus looked up, face unreadable. "That's what command wants." Fear. A deterrent. No mercenary signs a human contract again without remembering Zephyr 6. She paused. You ever get tired of playing God? A flicker of weariness touched his face. More than you know. Back at the mercenary compound, Krev limped through the rows of tents like a ghost haunting his own camp. He saw the looks, the ones they didn't mean to give. They weren't looking at a commander anymore. They were waiting for something to crumble. At the mess tent, a young merc named Tark approached cautiously. Commander, do we have reinforcements coming? Krev stared through him. Tark swallowed. If we pooled our credits, maybe we could hire another battalion. Fall back. Regroup. Velrek appeared at Krev's side, his tone firm. You're talking about retreat? No, I mean just temporarily. We regroup, come back smarter. You won't come back, Velrek replied coldly. None do. Tark shrank back, but Krev raised a hand. No, he said quietly. He's right to ask. That silence again. Even the wind felt still. Krev stepped forward, speaking loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. I promised you wealth. Glory. A fight worthy of our skills. What you got was fear, traps, humiliation. That shame is mine to carry. But if any of you want to leave, go. No one moved. Not yet. Then, one by one, 6 mercenaries stood and walked toward the edge of the camp. No words. Just retreat in its rawest form. Krev turned to Velrek, voice thin. We're ghosts now. Velrek shook his head. No. They are. We're just the ones who saw them. That night, Ghost Company launched its final move. It began not with bullets, but sound. High-frequency pulses echoed through the trees. Untraceable, maddening. Mercs awoke clutching their heads. Then came the lights, flashes and unnatural patterns, overloading night vision gear, searing into helmets. Screams followed. Motion-triggered speakers blasted pre-recorded human taunts and laughter, looping through the darkness. Then, just as suddenly, it stopped. Silence. And then, movement. Mercenaries fired wildly, but nothing replied. A shadow would flicker, and they'd empty a clip. Their own panic became the enemy's most efficient weapon. Velrek stumbled through the chaos, weapon drawn, looking for Krev. He found him alone, staring at a wall marked with human chalk. No contract is worth this. Krev turned to Velrek, voice hollow. I thought I knew war. Velrek placed a hand on his shoulder. Then let's live long enough to learn it properly. And for the first time in a long, violent life, Krev nodded. They wouldn't win here. But they could still walk away. And never return. Dawn came slow to Zephyr 6. The jungle didn't welcome it. Mists clung to the canopy like a second skin, and light barely filtered through. In the stillness, Marcus Kane crouched on a moss-covered ledge, watching the remnants of Krev's camp from a distance. The mercenary stronghold, once fortified and roaring with arrogance, now sat quiet and exposed, like a carcass picked clean by patience. He scanned the compound through his scope. No movement. No heat signatures. The guards had abandoned their posts. Even the automated drones hovered still, unresponsive, as if their programming had given up. They're breaking down, Elena said, kneeling beside him. They're broken, Marcus replied, his voice even. Now it ends. Inside the camp, Krev stood alone at the center, armor removed, shoulders bare beneath a loose gray tunic. His legs still limped, but his posture was calm. His weapon lay untouched near the supply crates. Velrek approached slowly, carrying only a small comm device in hand. Transports are landing within the hour. The ones who stayed, they're leaving with us. Krev didn't look at him. Did any of them speak? They didn't have to. You gave permission. That was enough. Krev turned now, eyes not defiant, but resigned. They think I've surrendered. No, Velrek said. They think you've survived. Krev exhaled, long and slow. I came here to prove something. That humans bleed like everyone else. That they're only strong because we let them be. Velrek didn't interrupt. I was wrong. Krev's voice was low now, steady. They're strong because they've learned how to lose. And how to make others lose harder. A distant sound cut through the morning hush, boots on soil. Human boots. Velrek raised his weapon instinctively, but Krev held up a hand. No. Let him come. Through the mist, Marcus Kane walked alone into the camp. He didn't draw his rifle, didn't signal for backup. Just steady steps, each one deliberate. His presence carved silence into the space around him. Krev met his eyes, and for a long moment, neither spoke. Then Marcus did. You could have kept fighting. Krev nodded once. I would have lost more than just men. Marcus stopped a few feet away. You learned. I did, Krev said simply. You didn't want my death. You wanted my memory. Marcus gave a small nod. Dead leaders become martyrs. Defeated ones become warnings. Krev allowed a bitter smile. That's what this was. A message? A history lesson, Marcus replied. For every mercenary, every empire who thinks we're soft. They won't listen to us. But they'll listen to you. Silence hung between them again, charged not with hostility, but recognition. Why let me live? Krev asked finally. You know I could come back. Marcus didn't blink. You won't. And if you do, you'll remember what happened here. Krev looked past him toward the jungle, eyes distant. You fight like you've done this too many times. I have, Marcus said. And it never gets easier. But if it stops the next war before it starts, maybe that's enough. Velrek stepped forward cautiously. You came here alone? Marcus turned to him, voice sharp. No one is ever truly alone out here. Not when we're watching. Velrek stepped back. Krev extended a hand, not for a weapon, not for a challenge, but as a soldier to another. Marcus took it without hesitation. A firm grip. Brief. Enough. This isn't weakness, Krev said. It's surrender with purpose. Marcus nodded. And it might just save lives. Hours later, the mercenary transports lifted off, their engines cutting through the morning haze. Krev didn't look back at the jungle as the canopy disappeared below him. He sat still, gaze fixed forward, surrounded by wounded and silent warriors. He knew the lesson now. Humans didn't win because they were crueler. Or stronger. They won because they forced their enemies to ask a question no mercenary could afford to answer. Is this job worth it? At the Terran base buried deep within the trees, Marcus debriefed with command via secure link. The general on the screen gave a short nod of approval. Mission outcome? Marcus answered calmly, mercenaries defeated. Leader spared. Message delivered. And received? Oh, yes, Marcus said. Loud and clear. The general leaned forward. Do you believe Krev will spread it? Marcus's expression hardened. He already has. Zephyr 6 will become a ghost story. No contract will cover it. No warrior will want it. And the special forces? Marcus glanced at his team, scattered across the outpost, cleaning gear, sharing quiet jokes, resting. They'll be ready, he said. They always are. The screen faded. Elena approached. Think this one sticks? For Krev? Marcus asked. Yes. For the next idiot? We'll be waiting. She smiled faintly. So we're still ghosts? No, Marcus said, looking into the jungle beyond. We're reminders. In the galactic underworld, word spread fast. Stories of Zephyr 6 flooded mercenary channels, whispered between veterans in dark corners of dive bars and warships. Not about the death toll. Not about a battle. But about the silence. The fear. The chalk marks. And the name they all learned to fear. Ghost Company. Not a squad. A message. Never accept a contract against human special forces.